Hey dudes and damsels, I'm astrapboy. As some of you may know, or can infer, I was a late one in the Splatoon community, having only joined in like February of 2019, which means that I missed out on a lot of Splatfests, namely all of the ones from Splatoon 1 and most of the ones from Splatoon 2. But I wanted to catch myself up to speed, so in this video I'm going to be telling you what team I would have gone on had I participated in each Splatfest. And I'll even point out the teams I did choose from fan versus friend onward. This video was partially inspired by Mr. Beat's video about who he would have voted for in each US presidential election, because if there's anyone an Australian Splatoon YouTuber would be inspired by, it would be an American politics YouTuber. I'm going to be picking teams from North American and European Splatfests, but not Japanese Splatfests since those can cover very obscure topics. So let's kick it off with the very first North American Splatfest in Splatoon 1, cats versus dogs. And this one is pretty obvious to me. I gravitate more towards a dog's immediate friendliness more than a cat's independence, especially when that independence means knocking everything off the table for no goddamn reason. Next up, roller coasters versus water slides, and personally, I would choose water slides. Roller coasters can get way too fast and way too loud for my comfort, especially when the sadistic person running the ride pulls this crap.
Scream if you want it to go faster!
You sick son of a bitch! Marshmallows versus hot dogs. I haven't really had much camping experience, so I haven't really had the calm, serene embrace of a flame as I cook marshmallows over it. That's why I would go for Team Hot Diggity Dog! Why did I do that? Autobots versus Decepticons. I don't really know much about Transformers, so for this one, I'm going purely off of colors. I prefer purple to red, so therefore I choose Decepticons. Art versus science. I select Team Art. When it comes to creative expression against cold hard facts, it's not really a contest. Plus, if I chose Team Science, I would expect the comments of this video to be filled to the brim with nerd emojis. Cars versus planes. I select cars for this one. Why? Because cars you have more control over. Just going into a plane, I feel like I would imagine the worst case scenario. What if the pilot's drunk? What if the plane runs out of battery? Do planes even run on batteries? I don't know, I still choose cars. Pirates versus ninjas. This one, if I had to pick between the two, I choose ninjas. The deciding factor is just my fondness of the Pokemon XYZ anime, particularly Ash Greninja. I don't really have any fond memories of any pirates. In fact, right now, the only ones that I can think of are Johnny Depp and Jake from that one Disney Junior show. Burgers versus pizza. This is a hard one because any kind of gluttony is my favorite deadly sin, but I prefer scarfing down a whole pizza compared to one teeny tiny burger. The experience lasts longer and is more memorable in my book. Yes, I judge my foods based on how much I remember the experience of eating them. What, you don't? Naughty versus nice. I would love to be all rebellious and say naughty, but more often than not, I'll try to be as nice as I can in a given situation. Past versus future. I mean, what would you really do in the past? Have a staring contest with a caveman or something like that? I don't know. The future is just much more interesting of a concept. Maybe I could even go so far into the future that I can see the squids rise to power, and I can be in my very own sunken scroll during Splatoon 4. Pokemon Red versus Blue. I like turtles, so I choose blue. Snowman versus Sandcastle. Now, before I get into my actual choice, this Splatfest has some of the worst writing in the history of Splatoon. You've got Callie over here saying Snowbay and Fleek and Cray Cray, and Marie just regretting everything up to this point. Plus the fact that neither of them justify their choices in any way. By the way, I'm Team Snowman because unlike sandcastles, they don't completely disintegrate when given a bath of ocean water. SpongeBob versus Patrick. I think I would have chosen SpongeBob. He's the main guy and I don't watch enough SpongeBob to have an opinion on Patrick. Fancy Party versus Costume Party. I've been invited to neither, but I choose Fancy Party because it makes me feel sophisticated. Early Bird versus Night Owl. So on the day I wrote the script for this video, I was very stroppy in the morning, so you can probably tell I'm not a morning person. Hence why I would go with Night Owl. Finally, for the North American Splatoon 1 Fest is Callie versus Marie, and I side with Marie here. Sure, I do appreciate Callie's peppy, optimistic attitude, but I gravitate more towards Marie's witty sarcasm personally. Now, let's move on to the European Splatfests, starting with rock versus pop. And I think I prefer rock music. I just don't listen to a lot of music in general, but when I do, I prefer guitars to electronic drums. Eating versus sleeping. Now, this one is tough because A, gluttony is my favorite deadly sin, and B, I am not a morning person. but if I had to choose between eating and sleeping, I would choose eating. I'm what you would call a midnight snacker, where in the middle of the night, I would just get up from my bed just to grab like a pack of sultanas and chow away at that while trying to sleep. It's a bad habit. North Pole versus South Pole. Now, you would expect me to choose North Pole for Santa Claus, but I'm a non-conforming anarchist, so I choose the South Pole. Okay, really, the reason I would choose the South Pole is because by this point, mirror matches have been added to Splatoon 1, and I know you would have still gotten points, but they wouldn't have contributed to the actual results. I would think that more people would choose the North Pole, so I would choose South just so that I got to play more significant matches. Singing versus dancing. I suck at both, but I prefer singing to dancing. I flat out can't dance, and consider myself to be not as bad at singing, although I'm still terrible at it. Messy versus tidy. I would love to be able to say that I keep all of my stuff in its place and I'm nice and organized and I keep everything in order, but there are at least 25 items on my desk right now that aren't in their right place. I don't even find making my bed to be a worthwhile time investment since I'm just gonna sleep in it and get it ruined again. So I'm on Team Messy. Zombies versus Ghost. Right now, I would choose Ghost. You know that mobile game? State of Survival? You remember when every single YouTube video you clicked, you would get an ad for this dumb zombie game? Yeah, that alone makes me hate zombies, which is why I choose Ghosts. The pineapple on pizza Splatfest. Wow, Nintendo really did this, didn't they? I am a bit of a picky eater, and I've tried to curb that tendency in recent memory, but I would probably still say that pineapple on pizza is disgusting. To me, you're allowed to like it all you want. If you love it, that's great. Fit versus rich. Rich? Because if you're rich, you can hire a personal trainer or get a gym membership and get fit? Logic. Barbarian versus ninja. I go with ninja for the same reason I did pirate versus ninja. Hoverboard versus jetpack. I've got fond memories of playing Jetpack Joyride, so I'd probably choose jetpack. Black tie event versus fancy dress party. Wait, aren't those synonyms? Whatever, I go black tie event. Lastly, for Splatoon 1 European Splatfest, since the finale was Callie vs. Marie, which has already been covered, World Tour versus Space Adventure. I would choose Space Adventure because there are a lot of other people that have probably gone on world tours, but not nearly as many that have been in space, and it'd be interesting to just, you know, see what's up there. That about wraps up the Splatoon 1 Splatfest, so now it's on to Splatoon 2's, starting again with the North American ones, starting with Cake vs. Ice Cream, the one from the Splatfest world premiere. I recently watched the Food Theory episode about copywriting a cake, and I learned that cakes can be made into really interesting sculptures, and that's just really cool to me, so I go Team Cake. Mayo versus ketchup, or as a true Aussie calls it, tomato sauce. Don't ask me why we call it something completely different, I don't know. I chose Team Ketchup for the rematch simply because there are a lot of things that I supplement with ketchup, and the only thing I supplement with mayo is my chicken burger order from McDonald's. Flight versus invisibility. Who needs a driving license, public transport, or just plain walking where you can just zip right to where you need to be? Okay, that aside, Flight feels like it has more possibilities compared to just turning invisible. With Flight, you could be anywhere at any time. You could be the world's best delivery boy. You could do anything. Invisibility doesn't really have as much potential. It's only really useful for stuff where you need to be sneaky or hidden. Like if you're stalking someone. Vampire versus werewolf. Both were in the Twilight film series, so it really doesn't matter, but I choose vampires. The concept of an undead being that sucks in other people's blood and can turn to a bat is just cooler than someone who got bitten by a dog, and then grew its fur, and possibly got rabies in the process. Sci-fi versus fantasy. I binged the entire series of Futurama, and I just found out what a disenchantment was, so that just said it all. I like sci-fi. Sweater versus socks. This Splatfest theme was written after one of the developers cried about his ungrateful kids not liking the gifts he bought them. In my opinion, socks are useful all the time, compared to sweaters only being useful when it's really cold. And I live in Australia, where Christmas is known for being really hot, so in the context of Christmas, sweaters are useless to me. Action versus comedy, being on the edge of your seat versus falling off of it from laughing too hard. I feel like I would enjoy watching funny things more. You know, I like to laugh, and while action movies are cool, they just aren't my style. Money versus love. Money? Because if you have money, you can just buy love? Logic? Wait. You mean that's not how anything works? Really? Alright, then I guess I'll just go with Team Love. Chicken versus egg. I chose the egg in the rematch because the egg came first, and anyone who says otherwise is just flat out wrong. Baseball versus soccer. I watch neither. Let's flip a coin. Heads for baseball, tails for soccer. There's your answer. Raph versus Leo. I don't watch TMNT. Let's flip a coin. Heads for Raph, tails for Leo. There's your answer. Mikey versus Donnie. I don't watch TMNT. Okay, I'm not going to keep doing this. Donnie, because he's purple in both scenarios. Pulp versus no pulp. I'm pretty picky with my food and drink textures, and pulp's texture probably weirds me out, so I would have chosen no pulp. Squid versus octopus. Well, this one is a pretty hard choice, because I like squids, but I also like octopi. I mean, Octodad was a pretty good game, but okay. You already know this from my profile pic. I choose Team Octopus. Let's just move on. Fork versus spoon. I choose fork simply because of the pun potential. Let's get these motherforkers, or fork over the win, whereas what can you really do with spoon? I'll spoon you up the arse. Retro versus modern. Ooh, this one I kinda can't decide. The retro stuff is cool, but the modern stuff is where I really thrive, so I guess I'll go with Team Modern. Or I could just do another coin flip. Trick versus treat. In the rematch I chose Team Treat, like the goody two-shoes I am. Also gluttony. Hey, future strap here. I just remembered that for this Splatfest, I did a poll on my Discord server to try and decide what team I wanted to pick, and the results were tied, which didn't help me at all. So, thanks for nothing. Salsa versus guac. Both are things. I don't use them too often. Okay, now we'll do the coin flip. There's your answer. Heroes versus villains. I think I would have chosen Team Villains. They're usually more interesting to learn about and understand than the heroes. Fan versus friend. The very first Splatfest I ever actually played. I chose Team Fan because I feel like the holidays are more of a time to spend with family. And while I still think that's true in my case, I now understand that people who are either completely disconnected from or don't like their family may just prefer to be with their friends during the holidays. And that's completely okay. Pancake versus waffle. I distinctly remember that I had just gotten sick to death of playing mirror matches in fan versus friend. Believe me, there were a lot. So I adopted a new strategy of looking in the square to find the less popular team, and it seemed pretty even, so I just went with waffle team. Knights versus wizards. Knighthood is literally just fancy fencing. I chose wizards for this one. Hare versus tortoise. I went with the obvious pick and went with tortoise. When Hare won, I got really mad and ranted on Discord. This was before I learned what coping meant. Time travel versus teleportation. Time travel in the pick for this Splatfest seemed to refer to traveling to the past, so I went with the more futuristic and fun pick of teleportation. Plus, there's so much more you can do with teleportation. You can just teleport to someone you don't like and shoot them. You guys don't watch me for morals, right? Unicorn versus Narwhal. I didn't really know what narwhals were at the time, so I picked Team Unicorn. Chaos versus Order. Nowadays, I see myself as a chaotic anarchist, but at the time I chose Order because I don't remember why I did. Maybe it was because some streamers were choosing it. Maybe it was because I liked Marina. I don't know. All I know is I chose Order. And lastly, for the North American Splatoon 2 Fest is Super Mushroom versus Superstar. I chose Superstar because invincibility is more important than just growing bigger. Plus, my 6'0" body is tall enough already. I don't need more. That wraps up all the North American Splatoon 2 Fests, so to finish this video off, I'm going to cover the European Splatoon 2 Fests. Front row versus back row. Wait, what way is it in the house? Oh yeah. I told you I was an anarchist. Warm versus cold breakfast. I do like myself some scrambled eggs, but cold breakfasts are just easier to prepare. Film versus book. Honestly, I wish I preferred reading books because they can be more insightful than movies, but as it stands, I just prefer to watch the movies. Gurk out versus gherkin. Southern picky about texture, southern gurk out. Salty popcorn versus sweet popcorn. I don't usually put butter on my popcorn. Maybe I should start doing that, but as it stands, I just take popcorn in the salty way that Event Cinemas intended. Adventure versus relax. I know it would be a good way to boost my step count, but I think I would just prefer to kick back and relax. Eat it versus save it. Now I really wish I could say that I would save my favorite food, but as I mentioned over at eating versus sleeping, I have a bad habit of midnight snacking, so even if I wanted to save food for later, I would just eat it at like 12 or 4 a.m. anyway, so I choose Team Eat It. And last of all, kid versus grown-up. I choose grown-up just because I never want to see another kid in public ever again. Whenever I see a kid in public, it's just irritating. Public transport, eating out at a restaurant, you just hear these things cry and it's annoying. So for that reason alone, and also being hyper convinced that I'm more mature than I really am, I would choose grown-up. Whoa, that was a long one, but I hope you found this video interesting. Let me know what teams you would have chosen or did choose for any of these Splatfests down in the comments below. I will definitely do an updated video when Splatoon 3 Splatfests end to show what teams I picked during and what teams I would have picked for the European Splatfest there. But as it stands, that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to strike the like and subscribe buttons plus the notification bell so you don't miss any new uploads or live streams. And as always, embrace the storm until we meet again.